Hello, everybody. Can you guys see me and hear me? Let's move this thing over here. I like that spelling of trailer. That is half trader and half trailer. So how's everybody doing? You can actually see me for a change. It's not usually the way it's done, because usually we like the game to be front and center. But here we are. So let's see. What would you guys like to know about me that you don't already know, I wonder? Feel free to throw any questions in the chat. I'll be watching along there. Once again, waiting for our tweets are all going out about a minute late today, which is annoying me. All right, so Cursed Ronway has asked me, oh, what's on my shirt, you say? This is my OG Rook City shirt that I got at, I feel like I got it at the very first time we met Greater Than Games at PAX 2011. So far, my day's been going great. Cursed Ronway has asked, if you were given the choice between 10 moderate tasting cookies or one best cookie ever, which would you pick? Jennifer already broke out and said the best answer to that question. I could ape that, or I could try to come up with something different. I don't know. Best cookie ever is pretty good. So, yeah, I guess I'll go with the best cookie ever. Did I sleep well? Surprisingly, I didn't. I had to dispute a tax bill yesterday, so I got up at like 6, and then this morning I had to be at school early with my son, so I did not sleep late today either. So yeah, it's been a busy, and it's not even going to end because I'm going to an out-of-town wedding tonight. But that's not what you guys are here to hear about. You're here to hear about Sentinels of the Multiverse. So, I'm sure a lot of people have already heard the story about how we came to meet Greater Than Games and how Sentinels of the Multiverse, the video game, came about. But from a personal side, I basically wasn't really an entrepreneur until I was essentially over 30. I took the 10-year plan to finish my college degree. And when I did, when I finished it, before I finished it, I started working at an advertising design firm. And so I did Flash animation, 2D work. I did web design and development, database management stuff. And I ended up sort of moving into 3D design and that sort of thing. So a lot of what I would do is I worked for a company that we would do like beer labels. And so I would have to make whatever the new bottle, I'd have to build it in 3D from like a spec that they were going to send to the factory, put a label on it, and then spin it and, render it in 3D so that everyone could see what it was going to look like before it would go to print or go to press. And it was actually while I was still working there that I started Handelabra. They were fine with me working from home, so when I moved back from Milwaukee to Cleveland, I would work from there from home. And since a lot of what I did was work for 2 hours and then render for 8 hours, they were fine with me finding other things to do where I could do things like start a company. I met John through Ars Technica, the web blog. We were both members of the gaming forum there. And we played Rock Band, and he actually wrote a Rock Band score tracking aggregation system for the members of the forum. And so when I saw that he could write programs, I was like, hey, would you like to maybe do that together? Because I had some ideas for apps. And that was the first iteration of Handelabra, which was not a gaming company exclusively. It was just an app development company. So we did some 2D work, some 3D work, some just contracting work, third-party apps, that kind of stuff. And it was through that we made our first game, Uncle Slam, which was an iOS boxing game, presidential boxing game. And that was the game that we took to PAX, at which we met the Greater Than Games crew. These days, I do most of what I do. In the early days, I never actually wrote code. I could write some scripting, but mostly I did like graphics and marketing and sort of strategy and all that kind of stuff. And these days I still do a little bit of that. Whenever we do video production stuff, I do that. So cutting together the fan video, which if you guys haven't seen it yet, you should. It's pretty awesome. Cutting that stuff together. I do some of the sound design and sound work, but I've started to realize now with what we do is a little bit beyond what is considered good or what is considered simple from my point of view, and then I could still make it good. So we've actually started outsourcing some of our sound design work as well. And I do graphics and marketing and blog posting and et cetera, et cetera. And then I also do the boring stuff, the business stuff, raising money and, doing the numbers and the books and some long-term strategy stuff, et cetera, et cetera. So for instance, I will actually be in California. I'm leaving on Tuesday to go to Indiecade, which is sort of its tagline is that it is the Sundance of the games industry. And so I'll be there showing off Sentinels. We're doing game tasting where publishers and stuff can come by and play different games. And so people will be trying out, hopefully, Sentinels and enjoying it. And then it's basically an industry event where you get to sort of see what's happening in the indie space and get to see all the cool new games that are coming up. So that's where I'll be next week. And after that, John will be at PAX Australia. So if any of you are down under, make sure to come by and say hi to John. If anybody has any questions, again, please feel free to pop them into the chat. My gaming background, talk about that for a second. Because when we first met the Sentinels guys, Christopher and Adam and Paul, I was not a board gamer. That was just not really a thing that I did much. I did obviously, a little bit. Like I had played Catan, I'd played Carcassonne, but actually mostly I had played those as video games. Like I'd played them on the Xbox or whatever. And so it was through Sentinels that I started to get into the new sort of golden age of board gaming games that are out there. And but so my actual gaming background, obviously, well, maybe not obviously. I'm almost 40, and so I grew up in the 80s with the Nintendo Entertainment System. So, and like a Game Boy. I got a Game Boy for my bar mitzvah from a good friend of mine who actually went on to work at the Xbox team at Microsoft. But, so, I played a lot of, Game Boy Tetris and Dr. Mario and, of course, Legend of Zelda. My favorite console ever growing up was the N64, and I played, what's it called? Ocarina of Time to death. It was like my all-time favorite. And actually, I just recently tried. This will be fun. John Mark, I know, is listening. I was trying to find a copy of the 3DS update to Ocarina of Time, and I couldn't find one in the United States. People were like selling them for like $200 on eBay and stuff. But our amazing composer, Jean-Marc, being another huge Nintendo fanboy, said, hey, I can get you a copy of that here in Canada. And so he did. So he got me a 3DS. Actually, it's right here on my desk. Boop. Yeah, there it is. So he got me the 3DS copy from Canada. You'll notice it's got the little also in French. That's how you know it's Canadian. So that was pretty awesome. And so I've been playing that through. And that was the thing, is Nintendo 64 was where I sort of cut my teeth as like my real gaming. It wasn't for another 10 years that I got back into gaming, and then got the Xbox and I started playing Halo. And then later on I started playing like Oblivion and those kind of RPGs. That's kind of probably my favorite genre right now, is the RPG ones. So we have a question here. If you could be any Sentinels hero or villain, who would you be? Well, obviously I'm Baron Blade. If you've seen my pictures from when I cosplay, if that's who I would, I don't know that that's who I would choose to be if I wasn't already sort of like that. Who would I choose to be if I could be any of them? I mean, I guess that sort of sometimes gets back to the question of like, if you could have any superpower, what would it be? I think something mental related would be. So probably someone like the Visionary. Something where you can like convince people to, sort of bend them to your will. That's probably one of the kinds of powers that I would most like to have. Because if you can do that, you can pretty much control anything, really. You can convince people to do your bidding, and that would be fun. Let's see. What else can we say about myself for the next 6 minutes? Our offices here are in beautiful downtown Cleveland. I'm at a place called the Terminal Tower. historically speaking, it was actually the tallest building in North America for a little while before the Empire State Building was built. So it is has got quite the history. So here's another thing that is outside the realm. So I tweeted this morning, I'm like, today is going to be a really important day for me and Christopher from Greater Than Games, Christopher Bedell. But enough about the color before the sun. It's also Sentinels anniversary. That's because Christopher and I had been working together on the game and whatever for almost a year before we realized that we were both children of the fence. And what that means is that we are like diehard, crazy Coheed and Cambria fans. And when I found out that the new album was going to be coming out today on the anniversary day, it's kind of like, what do I do? I have it downloaded, my pre-order, and it's sitting, but I haven't watched it yet or listened to it yet because I've been busy helping out with you guys. But I'm very excited to get that on my phone and listen to it all weekend because I'm a big fan. One of the cool things about that band is that they are a concept band. So they play songs that are based on this weird sci-fi universe that they've come up on their own. If you haven't listened to them, I highly recommend it. Cytosine asks, it sounds like you're fully involved with Sentinels for quite a while, but have you ever considered any other projects, be they originals or different adaptations? Absolutely. Initially we actually wanted to make I won't say too much about the idea because I don't want it to get out of the bag, but we have an idea for an original game that I've wanted to make for a while now. But again, it's one of those things where like marketing a brand new game is an uphill battle. And we weren't making enough money from the way that we used to do things to support that. It's one of the reasons why we fell into this idea of the digital tabletop, because with the way tabletop is growing right now, we see that as a market opportunity. And Sentinels is far from our only potential project in that world as well. Obviously, Greater Than Games has said on the record that they would love for us to make any of their other games, and that is something we would like to do. But we've also had talks with lots of other studios. I won't say who because I don't know that we should at this point. But, we've had conversations with a number of the other sort of indie board game Kickstarter-funded studios about a bunch of, pretty high-profile games that have come out over the last few years. And so it's just a question of finding the time and the capital to make that happen. And so we definitely want to do that at some point. It's just a question of when. Especially because Sentinels, we took a really specifically lean startup model with Sentinels, which was, we, as you guys all know, we launched what we consider to be a minimum viable product, a minimum full game that could still be fun. And that was, the core edition. But we still not only adding content, but also adding features as we go. Things like the ability to look in the deck and see how many copies of a card are available and all that other sort of stuff. So we've been working on that to grow the game and grow the brand while also working on additional content. And so if we had, raised even more money up front and said, all right, we're not going to launch the game until we've done everything, that would have been a very different conversation. Because then we could have launched it, hopefully you get a nice big boost, and then you move on to your next project. But that's just not the way that's not the way we work. It's not the way we do things. We didn't want to spend a year or an additional year head down developing something if it wasn't going to be the kind of stuff that you guys wanted. So that's why it's like, get it out there and then let you, the fans, tell us how you want it to go. And there's a number of requests that you guys have sent in that have made their way into the game that were ones that we hadn't thought of up front. And then there's other things that we would have wanted to do that ended up not being important. The example we talked about when you guys were meeting Jen earlier is animated environments. That might be cool, but is it necessary for the amount of money it would cost to do it to make the game fun? And the answer is it's not. A lot of what's amazing about Sentinels is not being able to animate the environment in 3D. What makes Sentinels fun and what makes it cool for players is the feeling you get when you're playing it, and a lot of that happens in your own head. Especially because as a player in this game, you feel like you are a hero in ways that you don't in games like Marvel Legendary, for instance. So, thank you, Cytosine. He says, as a player, I've been enjoying being in the middle of the game's growth. It's fun to get the new updates with new features as well as content. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we do it for you guys. We are at the core of it. We are fans of this game to start. So, we start from the point of view of we want to make this awesome. We want to make it grow. And being able to have that amazing dialogue with you guys, with the players, has really been terrific. Because you guys obviously really care about this property, and that's awesome. That's great for us. And for you. And for Greater Than Games. All right, so that is probably going to be it for now. The next game is scheduled at 2 p.m. Eastern. So feel free to come on back. This stream is actually going to end now, and we're going to have a new stream start up at 2. So we're taking an hour and a half lunch break here, and we may even have a special guest on the next stream. So feel free to tune into that. That's going to be at 2 o'clock. Watch our Twitter, watch our Facebook, watch the anniversary page, and more stuff. Also, Steam sale pricing should be going live in about a half an hour. That's the hope. So